And that extra long play-in lets you know that it's time for Lisa's Changing Perceptions with Lisa Efflandt. And once again, demonstrating the professionalism, the level of professionalism. I thought that we were 100% ready for the show. And I forgot to bring up the slide for our video viewers. Now, I know our video viewers are by and large very, very few compared to the literally hundreds of thousands of you listening on the radio right now. But we do want to let you know, all of you, that Lisa's Changing Perceptions is brought to you by the Bremer Team Keller Williams Success Realty Group, bremerteam.com, 847-456-6334. The Bremer Team Keller Williams Success Realty Group, they bring people home. Lisa, good morning. I'm glad I helped you laugh a little bit.
You always do. Because what they don't see, why they're looking at me on camera, looking ridiculous, waiting for everything to play, it's that end minute and the beginning minute that it's so awkward. They don't see your head waving and your hand swinging going, crap! So that's what I'm seeing. So all they see is me laugh, but they don't understand what I'm watching is you mouthing crap as you swing your hands up in the air, realizing there's a problem. So I start laughing. So it kind of contributes to the people who feel that I might be insane. You're part of that problem.
But see that then I feel like perhaps I'm adding to the entertainment value.
That is true
of your show. So I feel in some way I'm contributing.
I do have to admit that the majority of time when people comment about the show, part of what they comment about is our rapport.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's nice.
They like you as the host.
Oh, they like me. They really like me.
Yeah, they like a good bozo button. I got fans. Oh, good morning, everybody, to the incredibly unprofessional Lisa's Changing Perceptions. And I am Lisa, and I am a self-empowerment coach, hypnotherapist, and NLP practitioner. And I am here today, and we're going to talk about the key to change. And I'm going to tell you how you can reach me. But first, I'm going to forewarn you to get your unconscious seeds planted that this show is either going to enlighten you or piss you off. Both will have benefit. So stick with me for the next hour.
Yeah.
And that would be great. And Pete, if you could real quick before I start my yip yapping, if you could please announce how people would find this on YouTube, because I do get that question often because they choose not to book watch. That they'd like to go on YouTube. So
and I will post a link here for people watching on Facebook. But and for all of you listening, you can either, if you want to watch, you can go to our Facebook page. It's just 216 The Net, all run together. No spaces, just 216 THENET. That's how you'll find us on Facebook. And on YouTube, simply go to youtube.com/C/216 The Net. Again, all run together. And you can give us a subscribe, like, and a share if you're so inclined. Thank you.
Yes. And for all of you who are listening or who do go to the YouTube, if you do have the book, if you could please share that link as well on your pages, I would be incredibly grateful. And if you could all like and subscribe, I would be even more grateful. It doesn't cost you a penny, but in the big picture of advertising and promotion for 216 The Net, which brings you a lot of different shows and a lot of different really good people, it offers them a lot of opportunity. So for no cost to you, you can share that link. You can click like and subscribe. You can share it with your hundreds, or I know some people even have thousands of friends on your book page. Are we allowed to say Facebook? That's why I keep saying book.
No, we can say Facebook so long as there's nothing derogatory in front of it or behind it.
Okay. So if you choose to share that link, eternal gratitude for myself, Pete, and I'm going to be bold enough to speak for Kent and the other hosts as well. And if you can like and subscribe, there are some benefits that the station receives in advertising for that, and it truly doesn't cost you anything. And these shows are brought to you at no cost with a variety of topics every week. So let's try and help out 216 The Net if you can, with 30 seconds of your time. I'd be very, very grateful.
Well, thank you very much for saying that.
So I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions, self-empowerment coach, hypnotherapist, and NLP practitioner. You can reach me by phone or text at 262-573-7055. You can also reach me at lisaschangingperceptions.com, Lisa's Changing Perceptions at Gmail. I am also on Facebook under Lisa Changing Perceptions. And you can always reach me through 216thenet.com as well, and Pete will get any messages that come. I encourage questions. I encourage people who would like to come on the air with me. Kind of a mini free session, I guess. If you're looking for that, you can come on the air with me. And it does not matter if you are here locally or if you are farther away, because 216 The Net offers the fine technology that you can actually remote in and be on the air with me.
We can, and I can actually share that if you'd like. If you'd like to, we'll have to turn on the Jumbo Tribly.
If anybody chooses to click it, absolutely.
Then we'll go ahead and do that. So,
and you're welcome to be on the air with me. And if you would like to be on the air with me, but you don't want to be seen on camera, hence my truth that I hate the Jumbotron, you can just turn off, not do your camera and just do your mic, and I'd be happy to talk to you. It is easier, I will say, if you're willing to go on camera. It's easier because there's certain things, depending on what your situation is, and certain techniques that my being able to watch your facial movements, your muscle movements, how your body responds to things, I can see things in it that you may not realize, and that helps me along the way. So it really does help, at least in the beginning when I don't know somebody, to read their body language to kind of let me know where I need to go with that. So if you're confident enough or comfortable enough to be on the air on the screen with me, that would be terrific, and it would help immensely. But I do welcome that as well. I would love the show to become much more interactive. So leave it that. Did I miss anything? I'm good, right?
No, yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You covered a lot, and we got your website up there for you, and
beautiful.
We've got now the link for people to join if they want to join.
And for those of you who might be interested, people have been telling me, why don't I do this? And I had an interesting phone call about it. So if you go on Amazon.com, you can look up Lisa Efflandt book, and you will find my book called The Girl I Met on Amazon if you choose. I'm debating whether I should order some and have some here at the station available. So I'm kind of deciding on that at the point. But in the moment, if you would like to go on Amazon.com, there is a book called The Girl I Met that I wrote. It's a short read, but it kind of gets to the point of opening up the seeds of thought and the different perceptions that we have of ourselves and of the outside world. So it's called, again, The Girl I Met, and it's by Lisa Efflandt, obviously me. If you choose to, there are also 2 children's books that help to discuss grief on Amazon as well. So if you just put in Lisa Efflandt, basically all 3 books are going to pull up. But there's 2 children's. One of them is a children's coloring book that is helps parents or adults to discuss grief with young children. So those things are out there. I got a phone call from a friend of mine this week going, why don't you advertise all the stuff that you have? I just don't think about it. So I'm the world's worst salesman, I guess. I don't think about it. So I'm putting that out there. Also, I do have a line of sentiment greeting cards, but my friend, Julie at Come As You Are Art, she is redoing them, and we're redoing artwork for them. She did the original artwork, and she is redoing the artwork for them. So sometime in the next X amount of time, she's a busy person too, I will have my greeting card line back out and available.
And one of the things I'll let you know is actually, I think within before Friday next week, if I'm not mistaken, we will have the brand new 216thenet.com website up. It's been almost 8 months in the making, and there will be a store on the website. Amazing. Wherein Lisa and many of our other hosts can actually post things that they have available for all of you, as well as 216 The Net swag, which is...
Can't beat that.
No. It's a really... I think we're going to have a $2.16 page for things that you can buy. There's simply $2.16.
That'll be amazing.
Yeah.
So and I know everybody, this stuff can be fun. And it is fun, and it'll obviously be things that you choose to do or what have you. But a lot of the listeners, we have millions of listeners now, literally. And a lot of those listeners enjoy the shows. They're here all the time. The numbers don't change. The numbers are growing, not declining. So with that, please know that sometimes these things that you can go forward and take a little time to look at or take a little time to share, and these links that you can choose to share, whether it be YouTube, whether it be obviously the new website, we'll be wanting to share that, especially with the store and what have you. These are things that you can do that are no cost to you, but you don't really realize the benefit it is for not only Kent and Pete owning the station, but for all of the hosts that are taking their time. We don't get paid for this. In truth, Kent and Pete don't really get paid for this. This is all a love of doing it thing at this point. So anything that you can do to help with that, again, it's no cost. Please share the links. Please tell your friends. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. All those things. And when the new site goes up, please go to the store. Take a look. Is there anything?
Oh, and Shayna has added for you here. It's a tender, Shayna Krenslock. It's a tender walk with grief that lets the reader feel from a safe emotional distance. Thank you for inviting us to learn through your experience. Yes, order some books on hand to sell.
Oh, obviously she read The Girl I Met.
Yeah. So it's. So thank you, Shayna.
Thank you, Shayna.
That's awesome. So now today we're talking about the key to what again?
To change.
Okay.
And we're going to get going with that. And as I forewarned everybody to plant the seed before I went on my advertising babble, this is either going to open your eyes and help you see, or it's going to piss you off. Please know that both will have benefit to you, because it's going to be a challenge to the reality. One of my greatest offerings, I feel, and what I do and why I went into this, is to challenge the unconscious mind and to challenge the psyche. And when we challenge the unconscious mind to search for a new avenue, anger, frustration, and wall blocking is a part of that. One of my skills I try to master is finding a way to throw the seed over the wall so that it still lands. At some point, blooms. At some point, blooms. So we're going to kind of go over the key to change. I talk to people about this a lot of times, and a question that I get quite commonly, just in conversation out places. I'm social, so when I'm out places, I usually run into somebody and chit chat or what have you. But is, well, do you really think I could change XYZ, whatever it is for that person? And when they ask me that, my answer is absolutely. How do you know that? You don't even know me. Because you just took the first two steps. One is realizing there needed to be a change, and two is curiosity, if there is one.
Okay.
The first two steps to change.
There you go.
We can't change what we don't acknowledge, right? The thing that tends to be fearful or uncomfortable or self-sabotaging in change with that is, even if we know that the change is necessary, even if we know that the behavior or the choices are causing us distress and trauma and toxicity and, the whole list of gamut that we could go there with. Even when we know that, change would mean something unfamiliar. And unfamiliar is uncomfortable. Sure. And I've run into people who have bared physical pain, actually, for a long period of time. And then through the joy of medicine, or whatever they found, whether it be chiropractic, for whatever, they found an alternative cure, even of some sort, and it makes them pain-free, or at least an incredibly tolerable level, of pain tolerance. And what's interesting is that they'll do it, and they'll find it, and they'll do it for a short period of time, and then they'll stop doing it. And so people look at them and go, that's ridiculous. Why would they do that? That was just stupid. And it is very frustrating, especially if it's somebody that you love. But part of what I'm going to explain today is the why that happens. Why we make those choices, why we revert back to it. Why does the enabler continue to enable? Why does the abused go back to the abuser? Why do these things take place? Why do we do this? What is the brain doing? And so when I say it's either going to open your eyes or it's going to piss you off, but both have benefit, is because by understanding it, if you'll offer me your heart and an open mind for the next, 45 minutes now, we're going to get some seeds planted to allow you to choose how they grow and how quickly they grow. But they will in fact be facts of how it works. So I'm going to offer you some reality. And to many, that will sound like a really great thing to offer you some reality. To people who truly need to make changes that are scary, that's the piss me off part. Because once we become aware of something, we have to choose whether to struggle through it or not. And that can be a teeter-totter. So what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss the key to change. So the first key to change is acknowledging there's a problem. Okay? Second key to change is wondering if there's a way to change it. Third key to change. Next key to change is, what do I have to do in order to create that change to happen? This is when we start to teeter into the rough waters.
Yeah.
Because we then have to teeter into things like accountability. So let's talk about that first. When I say accountability, people tend to think, or society makes us think, that what I mean is self-loathing, beating yourself up, all the horrible mistakes you've ever made. It's not what I mean in any way, shape, or form. What I mean is, well, my choices and actions have put me in my life. So what choices and actions have I created, have I done, have I made that have placed me in my current life and my current feelings and my current mental, emotional state and financial and everything else, I guess, under the sun, but we're going to deal with mental, emotional. Okay, and in that, I can see where my choices did that. I can see where I could have done something differently. Why don't I think people need to grovel and plead? Because I truly believe that only a very small percentage of people in the world do it on purpose. I truly believe that each person, the majority of the world, does the best they can with what they have in the moment. And so when we self-reflect, we're actually looking at choices and situations and actions that we made that at the moment they were made were survival. It's all you knew. It's the best you knew for survival. The fact that you say, can I change? Do you think I'd really change? And you're looking for alternatives means that you're ready to realize you no longer need that survival choice. Something is triggering you, whatever you choose to call it, spirit, heart, brain, science, everybody's a different filter. So whatever you choose to spirit, regardless, something's coming up in you and saying, hey, this survival mechanism I've been using is really screwing shit up now. I don't like the outcome that I'm getting with this. So it's to acknowledge the survival mechanisms that you've chosen in the past no longer work because you as a person have grown, matured, had more life experience, and can see things differently now than you could 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. The only people who can't see differently now than they did 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago are the people who are still staring at those moments in life. And of course, you can't see differently because you haven't looked at anything else. You've only stared at your past. Okay? Why do people stare at the past? Oftentimes, regret. Oftentimes, shame. Two biggest factors. Oftentimes, survival. Because there are people who are locked in a past that was happy. And so when life became difficult, possibly, they look back at all they want to focus on is when it was happy. That can be as detrimental as looking back at the bad. Not that we should forget the happy, but the truth is we'll never forget what we call bad. But we have to change our perspective of it and realize that our reality is now different. So we have two choices then when glancing back at the past, as we all do. Do we stare at that, remain locked in it, and repeat it? Or do we look at it, attempt to attach the emotional effect from it, and only take the lessons and move forward better with it? Reality is those are your choices. Plain and simple. The key to change is acknowledge and acceptance of that as well. It is what it is. And that would apply whether it's grief, whether it's anger, whether it's addiction, whether it's anything. In my case, truthfully, one of the biggest struggles that came to light again, and it's come in a teeter-totter over the years, was my husband's death, not only his death. And it's funny because people only focus on the fact that he died. And that's, yes, it was difficult, so don't misunderstand that. But one of my difficulties and one of my personal tidal waves in understanding the key to change is I had a really good marriage and a really great family, and I had kind of the old school picture in a lot of ways. And so now seeing, 30 years later, going back out into the world and seeing how the perspectives of relationships and marriage and fidelity and, children and parenting and all these things have drastically changed, and considering to intermingle and try to create things in the world now when my perspective is of something that was completely different, that's a big pill to swallow. And I'm looking back at something good. So the reason I share that with you is that looking back and staring at something good and wishing it had to be that way again can be as detrimental as staring back at something bad and thinking it's the way it will only be. So does it mean I appreciate my good marriage and family and stuff less? Absolutely not. But my responsibility and where I had to take accountability was to accept the fact that that is in the past, see what I appreciated from that, learn from the things I regret, learn from the things I could have done differently, and move forward better. Does that suck? Sometimes, yeah. Real bad. But it is the reality of it, and I'm responsible for that reality. Nobody else is responsible for that reality. Nobody else is responsible to make my life comfortable again. I'm responsible to make my life comfortable again. And nobody else is to blame for my life not being comfortable, although I cuss and scream at spirit and whip the finger around the house sometimes at them on occasion because I get angry. But the truth is, it's my responsibility to stop and look at my situation now and say, what damage are you causing? And what choices are you making because you're locked in the heartache of what you lost? Because the things that you're choosing and the fears that you have because of the heartache that you lost are causing you toxicity in your future. So isn't it interesting that looking back on something positive causes you toxicity in the future? So it's remaining in the moment and understanding each side of the teeter-totter and kind of sitting in the middle in the moment. The past is meant to learn from. Whether you learn what happiness and love was, or whether you learn what regret and toxicity was, all circumstantial. The reality is it's over, and you're in the middle of the teeter-totter deciding what you learned from that so that the other side is improved. If you choose not to do that, absolutely you have the free will to do that. What I find is that the accountability doesn't tend to want to be attached to that. So in putting that out there, again, probably going to piss some listeners off, and I apologize, but it's the reality of it. And sometimes factual reality that's uncomfortable is your greatest blessing.
Yeah.
Because when we can live in the world of what we choose to believe, we can really keep ourselves uncomfortable for a while. So now as I say that, and I hope it didn't trigger anybody to the point that they're sad or depressed over it, because here's the good part. I'm going to explain to you why it happens. And then when I explain to you why it happens, what it's going to do is it's going to help you empower you to have choices. And we've talked about some of this on the air before. So for the listeners that already know this, it's just reinforcement. For the listeners that don't know this, here you go. At birth, we're born with two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud sounds. And we also have our fight or flight mechanism intact. And for those of you that don't know what that is, that's that instinctual reaction that says, I stand here and fight for myself, or I get the hell out of here. That's that gut instinct. I call it our higher self connection. Everybody's got a different kind of view on it. Regardless, it's a fight or flight mechanism. Everybody has it. It's real. And for those of you who say it has to be scientific, it is. Go and take a look. Now, they are also proving scientifically that if a mother experienced trauma or significant emotion or shock or of any sort, or if a mother lived within toxicity during the pregnancy, the baby is susceptible to those same emotions and feelings that the mother experienced. And they are beginning to prove that. So as I say that, and I say you're only born with the fear of loud sounds or the fear of falling, many of us could be born with more. Now, we could get into past life discussions, which I'm not going to, but I have seen that be a fact where things have been carried over from past life into this life as a fear as well. So anyway, we're going to leave that for a different show. We're going to go with, we're basically born with the fear of loud sounds and the fear of falling. And then from birth until 8 or 9, we are just a human sponge. We are absorbing everything around us. Where our parents or our caregivers, they're our first experience and example of love. They're our first experience and example of nurture. And this is where I did not want any nasty emails about this. I'm just telling you, this is my opinion. This is where I feel the breaking of the family dynamic of a not marriage or a couple raising children is that the children are seeing the dynamic of love in a relationship and romantic relationship. And that's the example that they'll receive. And we absorb traumas. We absorb anger. We pay attention to the way someone says something as much as what they say. We're just a human sponge absorbing everything around us because we don't have life experiences yet. So what we're born into is what our life experience is going to be. And we're absorbing all those things, negative and positive, and determining, and we're making decisions about ourselves and about relationships and about money, about housing, about what's of value, about how important something is. We're absorbing all these things. People don't realize you take in millions of message units every second. Everything around you is a message unit. And your filter as to what you keep, discard, absorb, trigger, that's all personal. There's no two people that are going to have the same of that. And this is where that comes from, is that's creating that life filter. And then around 8 or 9, your critical mind kicks in. And your critical mind is kind of like a filter. So if you can picture it, like picture your brain like a big circle. And so the bottom part of it is your unconscious mind. That's what's developing up until you're about 8 or 9 years old. And then your critical mind comes in. We're going to think of that as like a filter. And then your conscious mind is what you think with right now. My conscious mind said, hey, I'm going to do a show today called The Key to Change. That's my conscious thought process. And I'll be honest with you, I actually decided in the shower this morning what my show is going to be. And instantly, well, but what if people don't like that topic? What if I don't have an hour's worth to say about that? What if all that mind talk comes up? That's that unconscious mind. That's every insecurity I have. That's my people pleaser. That's all those people that are down in there coming up to talk to me and talk me out of it. Now, I've learned it and understand it enough that the majority of the time, not all the time, but the majority of the time I can go, oh, I know what that is. You can shush. This is what I'm doing. And why do I get to do that? Because my wise adult self says, Lisa, you babble all the damn time talking for an hour about what you like isn't really a problem. You know this. Quit letting that little girl inside of you that's insecure tell you different. Okay, so it's kind of the understanding of that, and it is kind of the mind conversation you have. And it's funny, people are like, what do you mean mind conversation? What are you, crazy? You can all pretend you don't have mind conversations with yourself all you want to. You're all lying because we all do it. I'm just more verbal to say, hey, here's my crazy. This is what happens in mine, you know. So that unconscious mind talk comes up. Depending on how strong that is, it can affect us immensely. So here's the big other seed to plant and understanding to have. That unconscious mind that we developed from birth till about 8 or 9 years old is 88% of our thought process. So 88% of your thought process comes from you and your decisions that you made about life in every aspect by the time you were 9 years old before you had any life experience. Wow. Okay. Look at all the factors in that. If you grew up in toxicity, that's your normal. That's your chemistry. That's what feels normal to you. It's what you're exposed to. So when your adult conscious mind says, wait a minute, this toxicity sucks. I don't like this. I don't want to live like this anymore. You'll venture out to search for different. And guess what it will feel like? It will feel uncomfortable. And you will feel insecure. And you will feel like you don't fit in. Or you might feel like you don't deserve it, depending on the situation, that you don't deserve what this other better life is. You may feel you're too bad of a person or you've made too many mistakes by the time you found that. All those little voices, all those little words are going to come up into your head. Being aware that that's the unconscious thought process and the decisions that were made beforehand, and that's that voice. Being aware that that's what it is, you can help to rationalize it and realize what it is and say, my discomfort is my insecurity of the unknown. My feeling like I don't deserve it is that it's not what I saw as normal at the time that I was making these decisions. Understanding that thought, you can talk yourself through the discomfort by understanding it alone. If there are major traumas or PTSD situations and what have you that are too much to overcome on your own, that's where some help comes in. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Because guess what? If you had a big old hole in your arm because there was a problem, you'd go to the doctor because you'd need somebody who understood how to fix it to get help, to have them. But you'd still have to go home with the wound and nurture it and care for it, right? You can't just go to the doctor and all of a sudden magic happens. So you still have to take that wound home and then nurture it and care for it and continue to be aware that it's there and to continue to heal it, right? Your mental and emotional well-being is really no different. You have to push past the discomfort. When you go to the doctor, if you have a big wound on your arm, right? When you go to the doctor, you know what? You know they're going to want to touch it.
Yeah.
And when they touch it, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
So there's some apprehension there, right? It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But you also know that unless you go there and get it fixed, you have a much more likelihood of it getting incredibly infected and what? The problem becoming bigger? Mental, emotional health is no different. So yeah, some things might be uncomfortable. Some things might hurt. You might have to take the bandage off the wound and look at it and it doesn't look pretty. But you still have to love it and care for it, because if you ignore it and cover it back up without doing that, what happens? It gets bigger, it gets more infected, it gets more painful. Mental and emotional health care is no different. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging your role. I love it when people say, well, if I become vulnerable and teary and sentimental, then that makes me weak. Does it? In a world that says you're not allowed to be that, to show love and compassion for yourself and for others is weak? That's what society has been trained to believe. But is that true? Because in order to offer love and compassion and vulnerability in a world that is right now especially very cold, very dark, and very angry, isn't that really brave? Because you could really get hurt. So are you weak or are you strong? Stop letting society and other people determine who you are. Now, on the other hand, I've seen situations where people actually had what seems like the Ward and June Cleaver. Okay, for you young listeners, look up the Ward and June Cleaver and the beaver.
Yeah, leave it to Beaver.
Yeah. Because parents chose to hide some of the reality of life, meaning problems with bills, stresses, angers, frustrations, arguments. Now, do I believe you should sit and scream and fight in front of your children? Absolutely not. But I do believe that children need to understand healthy disagreement. I believe that children need to understand compromise because someone doesn't see something the same way you do, and understand that if it's that type of a dynamic and there's enough love or support and respect there, that compromise is necessary, and understanding how to determine that. I do believe that children should realize that their parents aren't just parents, they're human beings who have feelings and histories and pasts and wounds of their own, and that anger and fear is a part of it. Because when we don't expose our children to those things as well, and again, I do not mean at a toxic or abusive level, ever, but we don't expose our children to the realities of life, and we don't allow them to feel and take risks and to see the realities and then see us cope with them as well, you are offering them a very difficult, struggling life. Because they're either going to decide and believe that they are entitled to the rest of the world thinking that they are also perfect as you have made them believe. And they're also going to believe that people in the world are as kind and loving and gentle and never show an emotion besides love and happiness like you do. What a shitty reality check that could be. And I talked to a woman recently in a chit chat. I had said, what was your relationship with your father? I think I talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago. And she said, oh my God, he was wonderful and perfect. And he always made a big deal out of me. And I was his princess. And she went on and on about how fabulous, absolutely fabulous he was. He treated her amazing. She never felt more loved than with her father. Want to know what she also is?
Single?
Divorced 4 times.
Yeah, okay. Say.
Does it mean that the men are bad or she's bad? Absolutely not. But in her young years of determining what a male-female dynamic is, you are to be worshipped. You are to be loved at all times, and you are never to feel discomfort, distress, or disappointment. You are never to receive anger. You are never to receive criticism. You are always to be worshipped like all. Do you see where having a too positive upbringing can be as toxic as a non?
Oh, I can completely, very easily relate.
Pete, King of the World?
No, Crown Prince of the Universe. Thank you very much.
Got it.
A title that does not pay at all. But yeah.
So understanding that that's how it's happening and what's happening, and everybody's going to be different because we all had different experiences. And I've said this on the air before. Why do you call yourself a self-empowerment coach, Lisa? People call themselves life coaches. Just a personal opinion. I can't coach you on your life. I didn't live it. But I can empower you with the tools and understanding of how and why your mind is thinking the way that it is. And I'm not a psychologist. Okay, just putting that out there. I do not have a psychology degree. I have a whole lot of flippant life experience and a whole lot of research and study, but I am not a psychologist. I can give you the tools to help you to sort that out. I could even sit in my office and sort it out with you or via webcam, whatever. And I can help you do that. But the true key is only you know your life. Only you know your truths. And there may be truths that you don't choose to share. Cool. Doesn't mean they can't be solved. But by having those realities come up and face them, even within yourself, and understanding why they're there and why they're coming up and why you're self-sabotaging your own life can be very helpful. Just understanding alone. There are people who truly, like I said, leave a toxic situation. They know they don't want to be in a toxic situation and they leave it. And as soon as they become incredibly comfortable or happy, they run. They run right back to the toxic situation. And people say, why do they do that? Because they don't know anything different. When you live within something for a certain amount of time, it becomes your normal. And the discomfort of that brings up every insecurity, question, thought, process of it. So even toxicity can become more comfortable if at least you know what to expect. The only thing you know how to expect from happiness when you've come from toxicity for too long is disappointment, hurt. Here's the key. When you understand that and you go in and you push through the happiness and you actually look at those past things of what you live and you regret, but you actually look at that and take learnings from it instead, you can conquer it all and it will become comfortable. You did not become comfortable in toxicity overnight. You had to remain within it for a long period of time. You had to begin to think like it, be like it, learn how to survive within it because you didn't have a choice. Once you have a choice, it's uncomfortable because at least that's all you knew and you know what that world is. It's part of the reason there was years and years ago, people remember Cabrini Green. And they said, oh, if we break up Cabrini Green, all these people will have new opportunities and they'll see life differently. The opportunity would be there, but they never stopped and looked at the fact that they didn't know another way to be, and nobody ever showed them or taught them what that mind process was going to do. Now, I'm saying Cabrini Green because that's actually a true thing that they did. I don't know, from forever, years ago, right now. I don't remember how long years ago it was now. But it can happen with good situations or positive situations. It doesn't matter. That process doesn't matter if you were rich, poor, what color, what race, what religion. None of that matters. It's how we absorb the information, how we made choices and decisions, and how we're moving forward with it. Whatever that was is our comfort. And if that's no longer working for you, to beat yourself up is not going to change it. The truth is at the time in the situation that you were, it was your flippin' survival. And how do I know that? Because your unconscious mind's job is to keep your butt alive.
Yeah.
And to keep your brand as comfortable as possible, and to search for your happiness. And that's funny too, because people say, well, how can going back to toxic be happy? Because uncomfortable is not more unhappy. So it'll search for the easiest route. Your unconscious mind will go back to what has worked in the past to get me out of my current situation that makes me uncomfortable. And it will instantly revert back to old decisions that have worked in the past. What the the work involved in it is you acknowledging what those things were, understanding why you're thinking that way to go back to that old behavior, and then asking yourself, did that behavior bring me to where I wanted to be? Did that behavior have a good outcome? Because it's not that there's something wrong with you that you're thinking it. It is embedded in your mind because at the time you made the decision that was a good coping skill, it was the way you survived.
Right.
Now your adult conscious mind with life experience needs to determine, did it create the survival of the life that I want? Because if it didn't create the survival of the life that you want, if it didn't bring you to the life that you want, then something needs to change within the thought processes and the coping skills. And the only person who's going to do that is you. And the greatest tool you can have to doing that is the understanding, the acknowledgement of your own bullshit. Period. I'm not criticizing what those things were. They were your survival. But when you recognize that those survival skills are no longer bringing you a life that you would like to live, when you're aware of that and you still choose to not battle it and return back to the toxicity, you are not aware of your own bullshit and you are choosing your own bullshit, and it is still a choice that you have a God-given right of free will to make. This is another one of this is going to piss people off things because it's forced accountability. Reality is forced accountability. You can deny it, you can do it, but the truth is now there's going to be a little seed in everybody's head of, I'm kind of responsible for this.
Yeah.
Just the reality of it. So another thing that came up is how our body responds to these choices and how our body responds to these things. And these survival skills, oftentimes when people allow their vulnerable side out or they allow their truth to come out, and I'm usually pretty good when I'm one-on-one where people feel pretty comfortable and they'll tell me kind of deep, dark secrets thing. I've even had it happen in the checkout line where I get in conversation with people and all of a sudden they start telling me their deep life secrets. What happens is that the majority of the people, and again, there are always exceptions. So when you have that one exception in your life, I get it. The majority of people who are later on in life a little bit, sometimes young, sadly, but usually, who are angry, bitter, cold, or very guarded, or even snappy and snarly. When you allow them a free and healthy, safe space, they are some of the most gentle, kind, sweet, loving people who have been hurt so many times that their survival mechanism has become, don't let anybody so close that they can hurt you. Just a fact. Just a fact. Nobody is born, with exception to a defect of some sort. No one is born an angry, spiteful, hurtful person looking up. I do not see many toddlers learning to walk, running around with a knife, attacking people and killing them.
Unless they're named Chucky.
Right.
No.
I do
Just
not
kidding.
see many toddlers that are physically trying to truly harm someone or being spiteful and hurtful. Can those behaviors and personality traits develop at that point? Yes. They will be a result of the home environment 99% of the time. Were they too spoiled? Were they too babied? Again, it can go both ways. Did they see abuse or did they see over coddling and over allowance? Those are both balancing factors that can cause the negativity. So this week, and actually the last 2 weeks, and somebody very, very, very close to me, autoimmune disease is something that has entered my world in the last few years. Blessed be that I actually do have one. I always say I don't have one, but I kind of do because I have PCOS, but it doesn't affect me like it used to for other reasons. But autoimmune disease seems to be something coming into my reality like alcoholism did for a long time. And somebody very, very, very close to me that I love very much was just diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disease. And she knows how I see things, and she knows that I believe that the mental, emotional does truly affect how our body responds. And I'm going to have that argument if I have time too. And so she got a hold of me and said, I was just diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, Lise. How do you see it? How do you see autoimmune disease? And I said, well, autoimmune disease is your body identifying its own cells and its own things as foreign, right? That's what it does. It attacks itself. That's autoimmune diseases. When your body begins to attack itself as something foreign, that's what an autoimmune disease is. Okay. Some part of the body, all the parts have different purposes in my perspective, but we're just going to go in general. Autoimmune disease is your body seeing its own self and attacking it as foreign. My spiritual perspective, just my perspective and opinion. When we are not allowing our true heart, our true feelings, our true emotions, who we truly are to be seen, because we're locked in from whatever conditioning to be people pleasing, to be this, to be that, because we're supposed to appear this and we have to work hard for that, whether it be that we financially have to seem a certain way, whether we physically have to look a certain way, whether we believe that because DNA is involved that we have to now give ourselves up to people who aren't good to us, whether regardless of what anybody's situation is. When you're not being true to the authentic heart, soul, spirit, and truth of who you are and what you feel for long enough, are you not presenting someone foreign to yourself? Are you not presenting someone foreign to the heart and spirit of your own truth? So in time, eventually, you can no longer identify the heart and truth of yourself as anything besides foreign. That's how I see autoimmune disease. Personal opinion, spiritual opinion. That is how I see autoimmune disease. We are attacking ourselves as non-foreign. And eventually, when we have been in an environment, made choices, been a certain thing for a certain way, we no longer identify as the same person. And I do not mean in a schizophrenic form. I'm talking about our body. So then I get this. Well, your brain doesn't do that. Just thinking like that can't cause your body to respond. Okay, gotcha. Had this conversation. So that I argue you, if your brain and your thought does not affect your physical body, what is telling your blood to pump while you sleep? What is telling your body to breathe, for your lungs to expand and contract while you sleep? When you get up out of bed in the morning, do you have to tell your legs to move? Do you have to tell yourself to sit up? Do you have to tell yourself to stand? Do you have to tell yourself to balance yourself with your hand or push yourself up? Do you have to do those things? You do not. Why? Because your brain already knows what to do. You've already taught it. Hence, when you were very little, during that lovely age I discussed, you learned how to what? You learned how to walk. You learned how to balance yourself. You learned how to stand. You learned how to get out of the bed. I promise you, the first time you got out of your bed, when you were put in a bed when you were really little, you were nervous. How do I balance? How do I not fall when I stand? How do I do this? I promise you that's true. The first time you stood as a baby, the first time you even thought about standing was a little scary. And then you did it and you were nervous and you were wobbly because you didn't know how to do it. So what you had to do, your brain and your body had to learn to work together to balance, to stand. And once you did that, you learned how to walk. You did the process, you grew, you developed these things, right? And even from birth, your body knew to pump blood. Your body knew to breathe, right? What's the first thing they do? What are the first thing you do with the baby when it's born? What's the doctor make sure it does?
Breathe.
Gasp and cry, right? Your brain is saying, hey, we need oxygen. Hey, we need to do this. We need to open this. Your brain is telling your body, open your lungs, breathe. You learn to cry. You learn to feel. You learn, they've proven, for those of you who want the scientific, they have proven that babies who are born in hospitals that are ill, there are actually volunteers that will go in them and make in there and sit and rock them with skin to skin contact, rocking them, singing to them, whatever it is for them that makes them comfort. And it is scientifically proven that those babies will heal faster. And they have a higher recovery rate because they feel touch. And they feel love. And love and touch becomes healing. It makes them feel nurtured. They feel like they want to grow. There's a purpose. There's a purpose to getting healthy because you feel the love and the nurture. Your brain and your body, your unconscious mind says, ooh, when I feel love and nurture, when I get touched, when I get held, this feels good. I feel safe. There's a good feeling about this. I'm going to decide this is good. All those choices were made back then. And so then when you grow and you look around and you say, hey, you know what? I want that kid's shoes. I wish I could afford that. I want this car. I could afford that. Hey, if I don't have this house, I'm not successful. Hey, if I don't have this job, I'm not successful. Hey, if I don't have this title, I'm not successful. Hey, if I'm this fat, I'm too fat. And if I'm this skinny, I'm too skinny. And hey, that girl's, her boobs don't need a big old bra. Look at her go in her little swimsuit. I'm jealous. And guys, look at that guy's pecs and his chest. We start comparing ourselves to everybody and everything under the sun, whether it be body, money, home, car, everything. Absolutely flipping everything. And eventually we lose that heart and spirit of who we are. And the truth is, and this will sound hokey, love and nurture is the key to all of us. Love and nurture. The feeling of love and safety and nurture is the key to us all. It is the core essence that we began with from the very beginning. Do mothers not tend to, when they're pregnant, rub their bellies and say how much they love their baby already that they haven't even seen or touched? It's growing within them. So if a baby can experience the trauma that a mother experiences during pregnancy, doesn't it also experience the love, the feeling, the energy? Scientifically proven they can experience the trauma. So are they not experiencing the love? When we go back to the core of who we are, it is love and nurture that makes life worthwhile. Would you not rather be in a little tiny home and drive a car that's maybe not what you want, but if every time you walked through the door, you felt loved and nurtured and safe and you knew you were welcome, you knew you were a part, you knew you were safe and someone truly loved you, would that not be the best life? But we get mixed up in all the other things and we get mixed up in all other people's values. That was why I did the show last week. Other people's values get us mixed up. The things we're told and taught and conditioned and trained to believe. The interesting part is that people say, well, I am very loving and I am very nurturing. Right, and I'll bring in 100 of those people and 99 of them will be to everyone but themselves. And they'll be exhausted people pleasers.
Right. Yeah.
The key to love and nurture is to first decide you need to take care of you and know that you are worthy of love and nurture. Not to offer it. When you only offer it, you drain the pot. If I offer Pete my gas can and he fills up his car, but the gas tank never gets refilled. It's just an empty can. So if you're offering love and nurture, but you're too afraid to receive it or do not feel you're valuable enough to receive it, eventually you have an empty can. Hence we become angry and spiteful and uncomfortable and feeling needy and feeling like something's missing. You're damn right something's missing. Some self-love and nurture first, and then allowing someone else to give it to you. That's the empty hole you're feeling. And there's no house or car or shoes or body that's going to change that, because human nature from the time of birth is love and nurture. And a baby learned to receive it. And life conditioned them out of believing they were deserving of it. Reality. Just reality. Even abandoned babies in the hospital, a complete stranger coming and rocking them skin to skin with love and care of their healing has a higher survival rate and a faster healing rate. Complete stranger. Because the essence is love and nurture. To learn to receive it, we learned to receive it first. A baby can't offer you love when it's born. Doesn't know what that is. But it learned what that was through receiving it. And a screwed up society and a screwed up economy and a screwed up everything under the sun said, wait a minute, but that's all nice that God gave you that and all. But if you don't have this in my eyes, you're not worth it. Allowing another human being or group of human beings to determine what our value was. Whether it be a shitty family or a situation or a trauma, whatever it is, everybody's different. Or whether it be an incredibly good family, as I've shown as the example. The incredibly so-called perfect family can cause as much, because then you never you receive so much love that now you think that's all there is. Not finding the balance. When you're not real to yourself and you're not real with who you are, and you're not offering yourself what you truly know your heart and spirit desires, and you continue to be someone for the facade that was trained and conditioned that you were supposed to be, you will become foreign to yourself. Hence autoimmune disease, in my opinion. And now I did talk myself till the end of the show.
You did. We're right about coming up to 2 minutes.
I apologize if there's anybody who had a question and I babbled. This is really a very
no, I think we had a lot of tuned in listeners.
Valuable topic to me, life-changing topic to me. So there it is for today. We'll talk more about body syndromes and stuff today, but because somebody very close to me, actually several people very close to me do suffer from autoimmune disease. And somebody recently was diagnosed in this last 2 weeks who has a big concern for it. And I know them so well that I know that these things are part of our conversation that we've had over the last couple of weeks. And a lot of things really hit home for them. I wanted to go, you know what? It can't just be hitting home for them. Maybe it's going to hit home for the show's gotten so big now that, even if I said it only hit 10,000, 10% of the listeners, we're talking about 70,000 people. So if 70,000 people even can get, hey, you know what? I think I can make this better. Then I did a happy deed in my own book. So wanted to discuss it, that it couldn't just be her. We'll talk about other issues and body syndromes and things like that. On other shows. For right now, I see Pete hasn't done the roundup thing, but I'm looking at the clock. 1 minute. Great. Perfect. So if you'd like to meet with me and meet in person with a one-on-one session, we can do that remotely via webcam, or we can do it in my office here in McHenry, and you can reach me at 262-573-7055 by phone or text, or at lisaschangingperceptions@gmail, lisaschangingperceptions.com, or of course through 216thenet.com at all times. You can also find me on Facebook at Lisa Changing Perceptions. I thank you all for coming today. I appreciate those of you who stuck with me through the whole thing. I hope it all made sense to you. We can certainly discuss it again or bring up another topic. If there's a topic that you would like to have discussed, please feel free to email Pete or myself and let us know what that topic is that you're curious about or would like to learn a little more about, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, whether it be remotely or whether it be here in person, to have kind of a free mini session. I promise not to get too personal with your life out there in the world, but people kind of seeing some examples of some tools can also be beneficial. So if you'd like to do that, also feel free to contact us. Other than that, I thank everybody for joining us, and I will see you next week. And I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. And I hope you at least got a seed or two that'll help you kind of move forward later.
That